you have the best way is you have to make a new life. If you intermingle with this life, you're going to be drawn back. And that is very true. And so that's just why there's so much relapse with addiction. Because if you don't make a new life, then those elements grab you and drag you back. Those old friends will drag you back. Sometimes family will drag you back. So you have to stay away from it at least until you are strong enough. And after that, you are not strong enough.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Consult a qualified professional for your needs. Views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and not necessarily those of Meet Your Mental Helper Podcast LLC or its affiliates. We are not responsible for actions taken based on this content.
Hi, I'm Jim Weisbecker. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Arizona, Colorado, Florida, and Ohio. The reason I started the Meet Your Mental Helper podcast is kind of selfish in a way because I just love talking shop with colleagues. But I also think the world needs to know about some of these people. And the reason I say that is I'm amazed at how much they know. And I think to myself, they should be on a podcast. But they're not celebrities. They're just everyday counselors, therapists, coaches, psychologists that work in our communities and grind it out to help us heal and to help us grow. So let's meet today's mental helper. And welcome to Meet Your Mental Helper. Today on Meet Your Mental Helper, I'm talking to Nathan Driskell, MA, LPC, a therapist, author, public speaker who specializes in internet addiction and high-functioning autism. Nathan has been a therapist for 16 years, has written multiple books on internet addiction and autism, and has spoken at over 100 events and organizations, including the FBI, and I think we said across Texas. He runs an online practice serving clients across Texas, helping people understand how technology and neurodiversity shape their lives and how to make real, often challenging changes that stick. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have me. Thank you. A pleasure to be here.
Good. And for the listeners meeting you for the first time, how do you describe what you do as a therapist, author, speaker?
Basically, my job as a therapist is to induce change. A lot of people, when they go to therapy, they don't really know what therapy is. They don't know kind of what they're going to gain from it. My job is to show them, okay, what problems are there in your life? What difficulties do you have? And what changes are you willing to make? And basically, I'm a change facilitator. I'm trying to figure out what changes are you ready for and to help guide you through them. Now, as a therapist, you don't actually want to control what the exact changes are. You want the client to come up with ideas and strategies. But generally, I help them to see what is the problem, how are you trying to fix the problem, and all the difficulties that are associated with it. Because problems are often very complex and have numerous variables.
Right. I think one of the most frustrating things I deal with is when somebody says, I don't know, whatever you think. It's like, this is your therapy, not mine.
Mhm,
I'm sure you deal with that sometimes, especially with younger people.
mhm. Very much, very much. The younger generations don't know how to really communicate very well. And a lot of this is due to technology. Mostly they're on their cell phones. They're basically doing this. They're doing this with their thumbs all the time. They're doing this. And that's not verbal communication. That's not eye contact face to face. So they don't have much experience as other generations would have. So talking for them is more of a difficulty. Social anxiety is very high with the younger generations like Gen Z and then Gen Alpha that's coming up next from that. They do not have much social skills. So talking, really getting in there with problems and issues are very difficult because some of these people and a lot of them have never really had real life friends to even talk with. So most of the times they are silent. They sit there and they do not know how to interact. And my job is try to get in to kind of help them to talk and how to teach them how to have those social skills in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have found that I see clients 18 and up, but I have found they'll often say, yeah, I have a good social support network. And then I'll go to find out, and they're all online. I mean, it's from gaming or all of their friends, and I'm not saying they're not friends. Don't get me wrong, but they're all virtual. They're all somewhere else, and I always find that I'm often hoping they're going to go. I hang out Friday night with my friends and go to a movie or something, but
It's one of the big problems that the virtual space, and you can kind of blame COVID for part of this, but not all. Technology has been trending in this direction for about 10 years. So I noticed this all the way to 2014, 2015, that people were starting to be more online, more kind of, okay, I hang out with my friends, we're in Discord, or we're hanging out, we're playing a game or things like that to actually go somewhere. A lot of them, they don't want to spend the time to transport somewhere. And because a lot of their friends are at different geographical locations, that's impossible anyway. So, yeah, I got friends and they're in different states, they're in different countries. And so I'll never see them in real life, but that's okay because we can hang out in Discord. We can hang out, watch a video, we can play a game. And what's the difference in real life? Course, we know there's a difference. We know that that bond, that connection, that face to face is important, but this generation does not value that because they don't really see that. A lot of the clients I've had over the years, they don't really have friends in real life. They got friends in school, but these are school friends, and you can put in
Mhm.
quotes. I see them at school, we talk at school, but when I get home, I have my real friends, my online friends, where I play games with and have fun with. And do they have friends that they talk with issues or talk with problems? No, most don't. And they have no idea how to even open up about that stuff because they've never done it.
Gotcha. That's a great
Mhm.
perspective, and it's scary. You shared that you were born premature and had numerous health problems as a child. How did those early experiences and adversity shape the way you see people struggling today?
That is a very good question. The whole reason I'm here is mainly because of that. I was born over 2.5 months premature. I weighed basically less than 3 pounds when I was born. They gave me a
Wow.
10% chance to live, which back in the late 70s was pretty much a death sentence. But I
Hmm.
defied the odds. I remember my mom telling me that when I was born, they kind of in the hospital, they put me in doll's clothes because there was no clothing that would ever fit me because I was so tiny. And what that did that nobody knew is that because of this, I had so many developmental delays. I had super developmental delays in cognitive functioning. And basically, they put me in a special school when I was about 6, 7, because I went to regular school and I couldn't function. I could not spell, I could not cognate, I could not understand simple concepts. I had gross motor skill problems. And today we call that autism. But back then in the early 80s, autism was basically the head banging people that couldn't they're not verbal. Basically the severe autism. But I was verbal, but to a degree. And I could
Hmm.
communicate, but I was very slow, very behind. And so my parents put me in a special school that was definitely pretty expensive. But they helped me. The school helped me, and in a year, I turned around. I went from almost the slowest to almost the fastest. And then when I
And
went
what
back to
about what
public
about what age was that?
about 6, about
Okay,
6.
go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just
That's
curious.
cool. That's cool. So after this, I entered into the public school, and I was pretty good. It took me a little bit to get back to speed, but once I got to junior high, I was basically near top of my class. But I also had other issues. I definitely had social issues. I definitely had sensory issues. And back then, there was no talk of autism. There was no high functioning autism. There was not really anything like that. My best friend in high school was diagnosed with autism, but his was pronounced. Me, no autism, no idea. And by the way, the
Mm.
school I went to is now it's been an autism school for a very long time. I didn't even realize that I had autism until I started to treat the condition myself and I started to really research it. And then it kind of clicked to me, when I was a child, I had all these symptoms. And it was like,
Mhm.
okay, does that mean that I'm autistic? Holy crap. I think I'm autistic. And it
Mhm.
made a lot of sense. Now, I will say though, it's a label. And does
Hmm.
the label apply to me now? No. Because one thing as a therapist, I learned a lot about myself. I learned the things I have to work on and improve. And there was a lot of things I had to work on in social interaction, deal with sensory information. I had to learn how to deal with things more. Because if you're going to counsel people, you don't want to be hypocrite and kind of avoid these things yourself. So I
Hmm.
learned that, okay, I can deal with these issues. So where if you were to give me an autism test now, I would have traits, works of it, but would it be full-blown symptomology? No. And I've seen that with a lot of my clients that I've worked with because I specialize in autism, high functioning, and internet addictions. And they
Hmm.
go like this, by the way. They're kind of like this. Because usually when
Okay.
you're autistic, you kind of gravitate toward technology because you can control it and you can understand it.
Sure.
People are scared. A lot of
Hmm.
autistic people told me people are scary. I don't know how to relate to them. I don't know how to communicate them, but with a computer or my cell phone, I can do whatever I need to. And when I'm
Hmm.
online, I can craft a persona and be whoever I want to be, which I
Hmm.
will also say that's what I did. When I got to college, I basically spent 14 hours a day playing a video game. I did that for 6 years.
You
And
mentioned you kind of had a yeah. Go
I was
ahead, talk
addicted.
about that. Talk about
I was
your
a
own
hardcore
experience.
addict. Now, when
Hmm.
I say a hardcore addict, I literally mean 12, 14 hours a day. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, if you did that in college, how did you pass? I'm very good at multitasking. See, I would have the game running on scripts or what we call bots now. I wrote bots to run the game while I studied in a different monitor. So I
I
would always
see.
have the game running and I would also be studying. And I made A's and B's generally in college through most of my career doing that. But the irony is, although I played 12 to 14 hours a day, it was actually 24 hours a day. My bots ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think that does to you over time, especially when you're supposed to sleep?
Yeah. Yes. So
Hmm.
you were always checking in on the game.
Every hour or two.
Okay. Uh, that's wild.
And you
I
know
mean, it
what that,
shows you have some really some tech savvy and and
hmm
some
hmm
for just a second, if somebody is high functioning, let's say an adult, a young adult, what high functioning autism, I mean, they're holding a good job there, but and I'm just going to go really easy there. Maybe they're a little bit socially awkward, or they're a little bit afraid of going into social situations, and they maybe they're not gaming, but they're always on social media. Would those be some symptoms, or are there other symptoms that are kind of prevalent for high functioning autism?
it's a case by case thing, but generally, people that are higher functioning, they gravitate toward technology generally, no matter what it is. It could be social media, it could be gaming, it could be videos, it could be reading. I've had a couple of clients that had reading addictions because they just couldn't stop reading because they could put themselves in fantasy worlds while they did it. I know a
Okay.
little bit about that because my brain kind of goes to that route too. But generally, when you're an adult and you're functioning, that's good. But a lot of times there's kind of limitations like, okay, I don't have too many friends. Feel awkward. Maybe I have some sensory issues. These are actually some of my favorite clients because these are the ones that, okay, you're functioning already. So you know already how to function. So you have
Hmm.
skills already. Why don't we take the skills you have, let's augment them, let's improve upon them. Now, that means you're going to have to put yourself in situations that you may not like. You're going to have to learn to deal with some more discomfort because anytime we want to change something, we have to introduce discomfort because that's what we're running from. And there's also belief systems we have to change, which is often in therapy where you have to change how they think about a situation. So my work there is to help them to think differently. They have often thoughts of, well, I can't go do these things. Like, yes, you can. It just may be difficult. Like, yeah, but I'll feel bad. It's okay to feel bad. And
Hmm.
often what do you mean? It's okay to feel bad because not everyone feels good all the time. And the more you expose and practice, the less bad you feel. But initially, you're going to feel bad. So we have to desensitize you over time. That's generally a very cognitive behavioral type practice of desensitization, to where we give
Mm-hmm.
exposure over time and we build up on that exposure. And I do that a lot with social situations for people.
Gotcha. For I when you look at the internet or you look at social media or TikTok or gaming, if I were to guess how many people were involved with it, I'd have to show you the whole globe and say, "Here's planet Earth."
Yeah.
It just seems like it's everywhere. I was watching a video about people in Japan riding their commuter train to work, and they were all scrolling on their phone. Like there might have been 500 people packed in this car, and they were all on their phones. And I thought, gosh, I mean, maybe I'm weird, but I used to like to just look out the window and see stuff as it's coming by, you know. Um, but for parents, I suppose we're at a point in time in our society where even parents are addicted to this stuff as well. I mean, there's older people that are telling me they're gaming a lot or but what are some warning signs for parents or for when it comes to gaming addiction? What are some red flags?
That is a very good question, James. Very good question. So, generally, for anybody with any kind of, say, digital addiction, there are, I'd say, three main warning signs you want to be kind of aware of. The first one, and this is common sense. This is a common sense thing. So that's a good thing. Common sense is if you're spending most of your time on it. Common sense alert, right? If you're spending eight
Mm-hmm.
hours a day, 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day, yeah, that's probably a lot.
It's a lot.
But that's the basic warning sign. The next one is this negatively impacting the responsibilities? For example, if you're a student, are you doing your homework? Are you doing your work, your homework, your classwork, are you getting responsibilities done? Are you spending time with people? Or are you on that device? Or are you in your room? Or are you isolating? Because that's the next thing is like, okay, well, if you're on this 8 hours a day, then what's lacking? What are you giving up to spend that time? And the biggest one, though, and this is the hardest one because you can't easily measure it. Are you thinking about it when you're not on it? Which means that's not one you can observe. That's the actual person. Which means, for example, when they're not online, are they thinking about it? For example, let's say some teenager. He's at school. He's about to take a test. He sits down to take the test, and he's thinking about what he's going to do in Fortnite. Okay, well, if I have this weapon and if I have this gun and this combination, instead of thinking about his test, he's thinking about Fortnite. To where he
Mm-hmm.
can't focus much on his test because he's thinking on Fortnite. Now he fails the test. Because his brain's like, ooh, I can't wait to get home. I can't wait to focus on this. That's the biggest one. And I'll say this way, it's also the more damning. Because that's the one that it means that they are thinking about it 24/7. And if
Okay.
your brain is thinking about that 24/7, just because you're not actually on it, you're on it in here.
Mm-hmm.
That is the problem. If that's you, you're an addict,
Hmm.
period.
Now, getting responsibilities done, you had the bots going, you were getting decent grades. What was the point where you said, because I mean, I could also see where you'd go, hey, I can do this and I can do other things too. When did you come to that conclusion that this wasn't healthy for you?
The game I played actually is kind of ironic. The game I played was a text-based game, which a lot of you probably don't know. So this was 1997 when I started this. This is where the internet was brand new dial-up modems. This is a game that was old text, no graphics,
Mm-hmm.
because back then the internet was so new that it couldn't handle graphics. So this was old text. But this is a game that had over 1 million players. I was the top 20 in the world,
Wow.
which and I mean, I and in the game, I was super popular. I was super well known. And I'm gonna say this is gonna be kind of funny, a little bit sad. In the game, I was a god. I had people that wanted to worship me like a deity. They would bow to me. These are real life. They bow to me, master. teach us to be like you. Now, for your typical nerd kind of by himself in his room, that feels pretty dang good.
That's a lot of dopamine there.
Oh yeah, it's like, and I'm like, I am a god here. You
Mhm.
will do, and if you pissed me off, I would smite you like a god, and there's not a dang thing you could do about it. The people who made the game, I would smite them. They hated
Mhm.
me, by the way. So I had this rush, this power. Actually, there was a war in this game that lasted 9 months, and it was it was it was super realistic in a way that when there was a war, whole areas of the game were destroyed. People
Hmm.
massacred. I mean, real life players being murdered everywhere all the time. I led an army of 1,000 real life players, and I won the war.
Hmm.
I won the war. They wanted to name the city in the game after my character because I was God.
You were George Patton.
And I got to tell this is going to sound really disturbing to some people. Still, it's been over 20 years. That's still
Mhm.
one of the crowning accomplishments of my life.
Well, two things can be true at the same time, right? You can be really good at something, accomplish a lot, but it may not be the best thing for you either, right?
It wasn't, it wasn't, it was the worst thing for me. But boy, even right now when I think about it, it's like I remember the feeling of I won. Everyone worships me. Everyone I have achieved, and everyone I
Mhm.
got all the validation, all my needs were met until eventually they weren't. The question you ask is what made me leave? After a while, it started to get hollow. After a while, after I've achieved, and it was just kind of it was work. I was grinding every day, every day, every day. And eventually that gets exhausting, even when you have all this validation. And then
Mhm.
one day it was like a light bulb went off because I was a psychology student in my junior year. So I have studied psychology stuff by then. And I knew
Mhm.
what addiction was, but I never until then thought it was me because addicts, they're losers who live under bridges. They can't be productive. See, I didn't want to understand the concept of a high functioning addict. I didn't want to understand that because I knew it was me. So as I was running, but then one day I got into the shower and I was a typical day, and it just clicked. What am I doing? What is the point? And I just had to come to terms with there is no point. Why am I stressed over a game that does not matter? Now, it did matter. And see, 95% of my friends were in game.
Mhm.
So most of my social interactions were my friends in game. And some of these friends I talked to about things that were more than just the game. But generally, 90% of the time it was about the game. So this is my social support network. This
Mhm.
was huge to me for 6 years
Wow.
nonstop. But then it clicked, what am I doing? I can't live this way. And then it was like, well, if you're going to be a therapist, you can't live this way either.
Mhm.
And then I realized I know what I have to do. I have to unplug. So I went out of the shower, I got cleaned up, I got into the game, I talked to my best friend and said, I quit. I'm going to give you my accounts. I'm going to tell you my account. That's going to sound crazy to some people. Here we go. My account
Mhm.
was easily worth over $10,000.
Wow.
I was one of the most powerful people. I mean, I was a god, and people would pay money for that. Actually, today, in many games today, they sell accounts, and you can
Mhm.
spend a lot of money to buy accounts for major important games.
Mhm.
That's an industry, by the way.
Yeah. That I've heard of that. I have heard of
Mhm.
that through one of my younger 18-year-old clients or 19-year-old clients was
Yes.
telling me about that, one of the
Yeah,
games he
they're not
plays.
wrong
And
either.
mhm.
Uh,
So you
yeah.
went just cold turkey. You just
I'm gonna
had
tell
this
you, that
moment
was,
of clarity and just did that what you just pulled the plug. How did you have some cravings or some second thoughts about, oh, let's flip that switch back on, or
no, there's a very good question. So I'll describe how that went. Basically, I gave my accounts to my friend in the game, and I said, "By the way, I'll never speak to you again." I cut everyone.
wow.
I went. I knew from my therapy that from my training that
Mhm.
you have the best way is you have to make a new life. If you intermingle with this life, you're going to be drawn back. And that is very true. And so that's just why there's so much relapse with addiction. Because if you don't make a new life, then those elements grab you and drag you back. Those old friends will drag you back. Sometimes family will drag you back.
Mhm.
So you have to stay away from it at least until you are strong enough. And after that, you are not strong enough. So I cut. And then at that night, when the night was over, I had two real life friends and nothing else, and nothing. And then for the first time in 6 years, my screen was blank and I had nothing to do. And I'm gonna use the word despair,
Mhm.
empty. I remember saying, I have nothing. I have nothing. I have nothing. I'm a failure. I'm a loser. And I was. I'm like, okay, but that's my path. Now I have to build a new life. So I
Mhm.
reconnected with my real life friends who actually, I still hung out with my real life friends, but
Mhm.
they were secondary and they knew it, but they didn't abandon me. That's a good thing. I remember
Mhm.
asking them, why didn't you abandon me? They said, well, we knew one day that you would wake up.
Hmm. So
We
good
knew one
friends.
day because we knew that you had we knew that it didn't completely, but we didn't think it'd be 6 years.
Yeah, I'd
Some
say you
good
have good
friends, right?
friends. Some good ones, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
But I had a huge amount of time to do nothing with. See, that's the other thing. When you get rid of an addiction, you have a time hole that, okay, how do I fill this time? Because then you can relapse right back into it real quick.
Mhm.
So, kind of what did I do? I learned how to program in earnest. I became a web developer and I got a job for my school within 2 months. So I
Okay.
learned how to program and really do that. And I spent 12 hours a day doing that besides my school because I had to do something.
Mhm.
But it was,
And I
I
met
mean, I got a degree in computer science at the same time doing
mhm.
it. Mm-hmm.
There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of, studies now with dopamine release and learning and progressing and learning. And that's the hack. If you start to find something interesting about what you're learning, it becomes addictive in a healthy way.
In a healthy way, but I'm going to give the warning there that even anything, even if it's healthy, can be obsessive. See, I'm going to tell you,
Mhm.
I got obsessive over that kind of stuff too. And I started to go 12, 14 hours a day in it.
Okay.
See, when my mind, see, and also people on the autism spectrum are highly addictive and obsessive to things. And to
Okay.
this day, for example, I've been working on a project. I still do some technical stuff. I'm building some AI animation for my business.
Mhm.
If I don't watch myself, I'll dump 12 hours a day in it
Okay.
because it's just I'm building something, I'm creating something, I'm scratching that itch of
It's
I'm making
enjoyable.
something. And I'm 40. I
Mhm.
mean, it's been 20 some years since I built something, but now and in the past of a week or so, I built a very complex thing that would take most people longer because of my background. But I
Mhm.
have to rein myself in because I can stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning to do that if I don't watch out.
Okay. Well, at least you're aware of that. That's the important thing, right?
That's the key. You have to be aware. And that's
Mhm.
like, okay, you know what? It's time. See, you also have to be regimented. I get
Mhm.
up the same time every day. I go to bed the same time every day. I have the because that is structure. People
Mhm.
with autism and especially people with ADHD, they must have structure. But this is the problem. This is the group that has the most difficult time making structure.
Mhm.
But you get them with structure, they can be hyper productive. The problem is making structure because when you have executive functioning difficulties, it's hard to keep track of things. Now, I'm very OCD when it comes to structure, so that was easy. But that's why I don't have ADHD. I have autism. So I could be obsessive when it comes to structure, obsessive when it comes to routine. And that could be bad too if it's too extreme. So the key is
Mhm.
anything in extremes can be hurtful, even if it's good.
Yeah. I've run into that with
Mhm.
people who work out. Well, some of them are not resting their muscles. They're not getting rebuilding time. And I've had some of them tell me I start to panic if I don't go to the gym, or and then I come home and look at myself and go, I'm not sure I did enough. And it's like, no, this isn't healthy now. You're not in shape.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, the term I'd say is mental illness is slipping in.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
And it's like, yeah,
When we,
working out's very good and I like it, but at the same time, if you're destroying your body to do it, or if you're trying to satisfy a need of I need to be good enough.
hmm
Yeah, that's
for sure.
yeah.
When we talk about internet addiction, we have gaming, social media, streaming, online streaming. What do you think? Are they all kind of a player, or is there a higher percentage of one or the other? Or
I'd
because certainly
say
people swiping TikTok, there's people doing that for hours. I'll have clients that are having family members. They're telling me I'm frustrated with this loved one because they come home from work and they're just scrolling all night, and we're not talking, or.
that right there is the most common. I'm sitting there and I'm on YouTube Shorts or Facebook Reels, and I'm just
Uh-huh.
because those little short bursts, I watch it, I get that little rush. But you see, also attention span is so low that I'm not watching 10, 20 minutes, 30 seconds, a minute max. I need another. I need another. I need
Uh-huh.
another. And that feeds that reward response of okay, my brain's going, oh, I'm getting the dopamine. Oh yeah, oh yeah, because every addiction's chemical.
Uh-huh.
Because it turns chemical. I mean, yeah, you can take crack cocaine and it turns chemical. You can take a swiping and that's chemical because it's releasing into your brain. So that's one of the first rules of addiction. Every addiction is a chemical reaction. So
For
when I'm
sure.
swiping,
Uh-huh.
dopamine, swipe, dopamine. And so
Uh-huh.
when I do this, next thing I know, I'm in a time hole. Half hour went by and I didn't know it. Hour went by. And of
Yeah,
course, am I paying attention to my environment? So I'd say your wife comes in and starts talking to you. You're doing this. Are you paying attention?
for sure. Yeah,
No. And then now, okay, you're not spending time with me. I'm here.
Uh-huh.
And next thing you know, what does that start to do to the relationship?
right.
Or I'm gonna challenge people with this. If you got kids, what are they seeing? They're seeing
Oh,
you
for
do
sure.
this.
For sure.
So now they're seeing you and they're saying, if it's okay for you, it's okay for me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now you're starting to see some schools nationwide taking phones away from kids, or they have to check them in at the beginning of the day.
Mhm.
Which seems, again, if we go back to common sense, it just seems like, yeah, you shouldn't be swiping through your phone or texting your fellow students when you're trying to learn algebra. Yeah.
My state, Texas, has initiated that this year. And a lot of my clients are upset. I'm like, well, okay. But then again, I'm going to ask you, what would you do if you were in their place? And if you had students who weren't paying attention that were on their phones, what would you do? I said, let's just be
Uh-huh.
real. And a good amount of them after a while go, it gets to see, okay, I understand it, but I just don't like my, I didn't say you had to like it. I said,
Uh-huh.
you need to understand it. Because yes,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this. I've had many students, they're in class and they're listening to music through the whole thing. They got like an earbud in their ears, so they're listening to music the entire time while they're listening to the lecture. How do you process two different streams of information and be able to actually really pay attention to the one that's the most important?
Uh-huh.
It's hard to fathom, isn't it?
But you see, they
um,
get used to multitasking. But here's the key, though: our brains
Uh-huh.
do not multitask. That's a lie. They
Uh-huh.
jump from one task to the other rapidly.
Uh-huh.
So you're going boom, 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 boom. So, but then again, when I'm over here, am I focusing on this one?
Uh-huh.
So if I'm over here for 2 minutes and go back to here, I missed 2 minutes of this. So I'm lying to myself thinking I can multitask when I'm really just splitting attention.
Uh-huh.
that's a good way to put it. Yeah,
Mhm.
because I think
Yeah.
we can have a lot of different thoughts going on and be doing, I can be talking to you and thinking I'd like to eat a hot dog tonight. And uh, and and yet asking you a question, our brains certainly can jump around to a lot of things. But and I think some people think, well, if my brain's multitasking, it's a strength, you know.
If I had $1 for every client that said I can multitask, that I'm really good at it, I'd be rich. Like, okay, I
Yeah.
said, by the way, master of multitasking here. It's what I did for years. At least I
Mhm.
thought I was. But then I started to realize, okay, because, and I'm going to be honest, right now with me, I have to watch myself because, I mean, I can be on this all the time too.
Mhm.
See, for me, though, it's not gaming, it's reading, and it's also fear of missing out for notifications for my business.
Sure. Yeah, it's all tied into that one box. You know, everything's tied into that one.
Mhm.
Sometimes after a day of, say, I have 8 straight clients, I'll come home and I don't feel like reading a book. I don't feel like doing a constructive project. So there's times I'll swipe, but I think now I've gotten better at going, I'm going to leave it to 20 minutes and then I have to do something else tonight. But it's kind of nice because you're just turning your brain off for a while. Here's a cute kitten video, here's 2 cute kittens, but the dopamine keeps wanting more. Here's 2 cute kittens and a German shepherd doing something. Here's a kitten riding on a horse. Eventually you keep wanting more. That it's the way dopamine works. You're never satisfied, and it's hard to get to that point where okay, we're done putting this
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know but
And then I'm going to say this also, for example, say I have anxiety. Say
Mhm.
that I have this anxiety. Anxiety can be very crippling. Anxiety is no joke. It is one of the most nastiest mental conditions there ever is because it sits in there and it consumes your whole being. So, do you want to feel that anxiety? No. So, what's a way that I can run from it? Well, I can get a dopamine hit. So, I get on my phone, I can scroll, and that dopamine will I can replace it to where I no longer feel anxiety. So, I'm scrolling, I'm going, oh, I'm not feeling this, I'm feeling better, I'm more relaxed. And now you just described the coping skill.
Mhm.
But then you just now just described what's called a maladaptive coping skills. Now you become an addict to deal with an addiction.
Mhm.
good point.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's self-medicating via behavior.
exactly. So talk a little bit more about how the spectrum interacts with internet and gaming.
Yes, yes. So people on the spectrum generally they feel different than the average person. They feel ostracized, they feel different. And a lot of this is because they don't have that many social skills. They may say or do things that isolate them. And everyone wants connection. Everyone wants to be liked. Everyone wants belonging. So they rather gravitate to whatever source that's going to provide them that. And if I can make an online persona, if I can have an online identity, because there I can craft, I can control. Because face-to-face communication, I can make a mistake. I can, for example, I might have problems looking people in the eye. I might be fidgety. I might get distracted easy, but online I can craft. I can be a Discord, I can type out my responses, and I can be whoever I want to be. And then I can start building the relationships, and then I can start feeling that I matter, that I have this belonging. Where in real life, I talk to nobody. And then
Mhm.
overall, that can be addictive because a lot of people on the spectrum are obsessive. That's one of the key traits is they are obsessive if they don't watch out because they can dive into things like special interests. So you take somebody that has a special interest, you go into a community for that special interest, and you make a persona in that community. Next thing you know, I could be in that community 12 hours a day talking about my special interest instead of going to school or living my life.
Good point.
Mhm.
And can it be short bursts of hyper focus? For example, I'm thinking of somebody who will get interested, let's say, in a type of makeup, and then they'll research every possible related makeup, um, and what countries it's coming from, what's in it, and almost they can talk to you like they're a salesperson on it, but then it doesn't last forever. They're on to another thing where I guess where's the line between someone that's just really good at researching stuff and having interests, or where you're kind of going, once they, they'll find a new thing. Maybe it's an electronic gadget, and they'll tell you everything about all the different ones. But then there's another thing would that kind of fall in there?
See, obsession is interesting. You can have short bursts of things and still have an obsession issue because it's not about kind of the duration, it's about the pattern of behavior. So if I'm going from one obsessive thing to the other, it's the same thing. It's just my attention span's limited after a while. And now with people with ADHD, for example, that's very common. I'll start a task, I'll get bored, and I'll go to the next one. I'll go to the next one. I'll go to the next one. But until I'm bored, I could be obsessive with it. So, because ADHD, autism to me, and through a lot of the research, they're all related. So you can
Uh-huh.
have ADHD symptoms and autism symptoms, and they're all like this. Actually, the irony is most people who are diagnosed with autism are first diagnosed with ADHD because they are very similar. It just
Uh-huh.
aided as autism has more of the sensory issues. It has more of the learning disabilities, more of the social, but ADHD can have stuff too. So I think after the next 10, 20, 30 years, I wouldn't be surprised me eventually if they're all combined into one type of umbrella condition because there's so much
Interesting.
similarity. But
Uh-huh.
generally, you can be, I could be for a week, I'd be obsessive on one thing, then jump to another, then jump to another. I've seen that. And that's pretty common, but that's still obsession. And the problem is while
Okay.
you're obsessing these things, are you taking care of your responsibilities? Are you having balance in your life? If the answer is no, then that's where it becomes a problem.
Yeah, I would say I'm thinking of a family member. That's not an issue so much where it's taking time away from work or anything like that. But maybe at times it's competed with socializing and doing some of those types of things, you know.
Yeah.
Um, Talk about a little bit about with autism, the sensory issues. Can you give us some examples of what that is?
A lot of people on the autism spectrum, they had their senses are more acute. They're stronger, they're more extreme at times. So you got sight, sound, touch, feel, and smell. So you
Hmm.
got all the basic ones. They're the same. And basically it means, for example, that if I have sensitive hearing, I may hear more things than you. And sometimes some of these certain pitches, certain frequencies may actually hurt. For
Yeah.
example, certain sounds may cause me physical pain where you might not even really notice them. So I could be in a crowd and have all these sounds, and I could be in physical pain because of my sensitivity issues. While you're looking at me like, what do you mean you're in pain? That's stupid.
Okay.
Or another example, clothing. Clothing's a big one. For example,
Hmm.
I have sensory. I hate long sleeves.
Okay.
I hate the feel of anything on my arms. It just feels wrong. It's an aversion deep in my core. That's a
Hmm.
sensory issue. Now, I can if I need to. For example, if I wear a coat, it's fine because it's not tight. It's the tightness,
Oh, okay.
the constriction. So that,
Hmm.
for example, I would rather. I mean, you could like okay, wear a sweatshirt. Never. I would rather wear a short sleeve shirt and wear a coat any day
Okay.
because it actually feels just wrong and it's hard to focus on other things because of that feeling. That has a sensory issue. Or let me give you another one. This is a one that actually a client had. Oh, this was a hard one. This was taste.
Hmm.
Most things I eat taste like it feel like broken glass in my mouth.
Oh my gosh.
They ate oatmeal because the texture. Other things felt like broken glass. So of course, if you just eat oatmeal all the time, what's that going to do to your health and your nutrition?
Hmm.
So I want to ask you, how do you think I dealt with that?
Well, based on what you said earlier, I'm guessing you asked them to be a little uncomfortable and start working on some other things, maybe, or.
Well, see, I'm gonna give everyone a little bit of a tip. And
Hmm.
this one, okay. Oatmeal has a texture, this texture, right? What other foods have a similar texture?
To
And
oatmeal.
let's start
Yeah.
with eating them.
Okay. So gotcha. So you're at least starting some variety there, but
Yeah.
not going all in on the texture part.
Yeah. So like, okay, well, okay, you like that soft texture, then let's try a mashed potato.
Mhm.
Let's try a soft texture. Okay. Let's try to, because we need nutrition in you first. So let's try now, after you've tried more things, that's exactly what I did. And then after we got to where, okay, let's try something maybe a little bit harder. And then there's something a little bit harder to where
Mhm.
eventually we're starting to desensitize from that. And yes, there
Gotcha.
is discomfort, but we have to start where they're at. So, for example, for me, I could wear long sleeves as long as it's a coat.
Mhm.
And so when it gets to be like 40, 30 degrees, I wear a coat and I always have because I don't want to be cold. But if it was really where I had to wear something all the time, then I would deal with it. Now, because I
Mhm.
can. Now, when I was younger, that would have been hard. And most of my clients with sensory issues are younger because the more older you get, the more sensory issues begin to fade.
Does fluorescent lighting fit in there? Because I've had some. I remember
Mm,
back when I did see kids when I was doing my internship and whatnot. There were some kids that are pulled out of school, and they kind of. I remember a supervisor of mine saying, "Have you ever thought of it being the fluorescent lighting?"
oh yeah, oh yeah. I've had a couple of clients that I had to turn off my fluorescent lights because it's two things: the light and the hum.
Oh, the home. Yeah. Now a lot
See
of
that?
lights
Yeah.
now are LED, but
Hmm.
I don't
There
know
was
if
some
that.
that, it gives me a headache. It's hard to focus. Can you turn them on? And I would turn them off, and I had a couple lights I would turn on. And they're like, okay, I can think now because the hum, it's too distracting. Now, so
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you then, what did I do over time with that? If we're talking about desensitization, what did I do over time?
I'm guessing you use some different lights, maybe.
That, but also, okay, for a couple minutes, I'm going to turn on the fluorescence, and I want you to just to accept that they're there and to feel that it's okay.
Just gotcha. Yeah.
This discomfort's okay. It's not a big deal. It's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay to be in
I can
discomfort.
have this. Yeah.
We'll do
Uh,
this for a few minutes and I'll turn them off. Then maybe next time we'll do it for another minute longer. Then eventually maybe we get to where half the session we're doing it. Then eventually maybe we're doing it. And then eventually you may not even notice it anymore.
mhm.
Desensitization. Little
Gotcha.
bits. Little bits. Very important for people on the spectrum. Very important. And again, that'll work for almost anybody though. Cognitive behavioral
Mhm.
desensitization strategies, they work very well.
Yeah. So when somebody were to come to you for the first time with this, say an internet addiction, what would the first, say, month look like? And I know that can vary. Are they coming once a week, twice a week, once a month? But what is it kind of the early stages? If we want to say phase one, what's that look like?
That's a very good question. To be honest, phase one is rapport. I need to understand the client. They also need to understand me. Therapy is a relationship. It's built on trust. Now, trust is earned. So I have to really talk about them, but also I want them to know about me. I'm open. Hey, here's the problems I've had. And I'd say this is why I'm pretty successful because my clients, even most of them, especially if they're younger, they don't want to be there at first because they think I'm going to take away all their fun because their parents are dragging them in and they don't want to be there. Oh,
Hmm.
because a lot of other therapists, either other therapists have downplayed it or basically came down with a hammer and said, you got to stop all of it and you got to basically live in a cave. We can't
Right.
do that. We can't do that. So I'm like,
Hmm.
you know what? So what games do you play? Oh, I play this and I play this. So like, you play games? Like, yeah. Like, I said, yeah, but the difference between me and you is I can balance mine. I can play an hour and walk away, and I can go do something else. Like, so yeah. And I tell them about my addiction. I tell them, and they're like, whoa, he gets it. And I'm like, I
Hmm.
said, I tell them, you do not want to be me because I have health problems because of my addiction. I have I haven't said this yet, but because of my sleeping problems and because of all that with that game, I have had brain damage into where I do not sleep very well. I get maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep because I wake up 5 or 6 times a night.
Hmm.
It's been over 20 years, and every hour or 2, I will wake up no matter what. The conditioning has been so strong, I brain
Mhm.
damaged myself. And I tell them, like, I got brain damage. My sleep, I I have not slept more than 3 hours in a row in 20 some years.
Hmm.
I can't even imagine what that feels like. So, I'm tired a lot. Now, I can get to sleep real quick, and I go about 9 hours a night because I try to get that little extra.
Mhm.
But, I do not know what a good night's sleep is. And I've done a lot of work with it, and it used to be every half hour I'd wake up.
Mhm.
Now, how do you hit REM sleep if you wake up every half hour?
Yeah, it's not happening.
But I also have a sleeping disorder too on top of it. It's called hypnagogia, where I actually hallucinate. I hit
Mhm.
REM sleep. You wanna know why I hit REM sleep that fast? Because I had to survive.
Mhm.
So I caused my sleeping disorder.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I've
And
heard.
I used to hallucinate terrible things almost every night.
Oh, geez.
So I caused myself brain damage. I got carpal tunnel here.
Mhm.
I have a special mouse, by the way, because a regular mouse is gonna hurt like heck, but this mouse works real good because my hand's up, so it's not stressing the muscles.
Okay.
And I got scar tissue damage in the back of my neck to where if I stand too long, I have excruciating pain because I sat like this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
wild.
I tell my clients, "Do you wanna be me?"
Mhm.
You don't.
That
You
get
don't.
that gets their attention, huh?
They're like I'm like, "I never thought I'd be this way. I never thought that I'd have the we're doing this for 12 hours a day." Yeah.
So when you came to realize that, there had to come a point where you go, I need to do something about this for other people.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, I was gonna be a therapist pretty much no matter what, but then after my addiction ended, I decided that's what I wanted to specialize in. I wanted to treat other people so they don't become me. Autism was a happy accident. I didn't even mean to ever study autism. But
Mhm.
how that happened is after I started to treat people for about a year and a half, one day it clicked, why are half my clients autistic? And like, you know what? If half my clients are autistic, I should probably research that and really start to understand it. And that's where I started to learn. And that's when it clicked. Oh boy, this is familiar because it's me.
Mhm.
I'm like, well,
Yeah.
then I'll specialize in both because they do this.
Yeah. Once I got into this field, I started seeing a lot of things from my childhood where I said somebody should have had me checked because I'm thinking of all the times in grade school I stared out the window and I was creating some story in my head, fantasy story. If I saw a bird fly by, and it was just so hard for me to focus until probably graduate school when I thought, hey, they're giving me my first master's degree. It was on trial, and I was spending some money on it, and it was like the first time I really zeroed in on it. But I was also 30 years old at that time, so
Mhm.
but yeah, definitely. This is very random, but one thing that drives me insane is hearing somebody chew, and I know there's a name for that. And I don't know if that makes me autistic or not, but I absolutely, and I have one of my kids is the same way. And it's just, I used to travel, so I'd be on my own a lot eating at restaurants when I was in a different career. And if he was in a booth near me and I could hear him chomping, it would drive me nuts.
Join the club. I hate it with a passion. It is a sensory issue.
Let's
Oh
start a club.
yeah. I do not like
Yeah.
mastication. I do not like the chewing. The sound, especially
I mean, I don't mind if
this.
I'm doing it, but hearing someone else
Oh,
do it,
of course,
even
because then you can
drinking,
never eat.
even them drinking water drives me nuts.
Yeah, go. No, no, that's a sensory issue. That's very much. That's an auditory sensory issue. Here's the thing. Everybody has some.
Hmm.
Everybody. So the thing about mental health is everybody has traits of everything to a small degree.
I
Everybody
tell
gets
people
sad.
that.
Everybody, it's
Yeah.
just everyone has a little bit. Everybody has a sensory issue somewhere. Everybody has an obsessive thing a little bit here. Everybody, but just what's the magnitude? Is it this big or is it this big?
Hmm.
That's the question. So,
And
like,
how
for
does it
example,
play out?
everyone has like, "Ooh, I hate when people do that." Oh, that's welcome to being a human being. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's part of my human experience. I hate you. Don't you
Mhm.
around me, which is
Mhm.
not very realistic, but
I've
um,
uh I've had to deal with that, and I've learned. But there are times when I'm like, I'm gonna have to put up some walls here because I do not want to obsess over this. Because the problem is, you start obsessing over the negative stimuli.
mhm, yeah.
Hmm.
You said when I read your bio, you've spoken at over 100 events, including the FBI. When you speak at organizations, what are they most concerned about when they bring you in? Is it about internet addiction, autism? What's going on there?
Usually one, the other, or both. It
Okay.
depends. Usually, like, okay, we want you to come speak about internet addiction. We want you to come speak about autism. And that way, either it's to our educators or to parents, just to give them resources. For example, the FBI went to the FBI 4 times. They wanna know everything about everything I did. For some of their agents to understand for, like, digital addictions, internet addictions, what to look for when they're talking to suspects, when they're researching. They wanted me to educate them on autism, like, what does this look like with clients, with people? What is this? They wanted me to help educate them on kind of the real world, what this looks like. And so for 4 times, I went and educated their agents and a lot of their staff. So these are some of the things that I've done to kind of really help so people can understand what this looks like in the real world.
That's really interesting. Um, so you practice in Texas. Where in Texas are you?
I'm in the Houston, Cypress area, but I have an
Okay.
online practice so I can see anybody anywhere with no restrictions as long as you're in Texas.
Gotcha. Houston,
Hmm.
Cypress area. I've been down
Hmm.
there. Used to go down to see my dad's. My dad was on the USS Texas um,
Hmm.
battleship, which was down around Texas City, I think, or somewhere around there. Well, the San Jacinto battleground. I think it was around that area. But they're reopening it soon in Galveston, I believe. So that's on my bucket
I
list.
think so. Hmm. Hmm.
Love Gulf seafood too. So, and I'm going to post all of your links on at the bottom of this video. So if anyone wants to get a hold of Nathan, what's the best way to get a hold of you? I know you have website and you're on LinkedIn and quite a few things. So, what's the best way, Nathan?
I'd say probably my website, probably because you can email me from there. You can get my phone number from there. You can go find where all my books are. Kind of like it's a portal for pretty much everything. So
Great.
basically, just my first and last name, NathanDriskell.com.
And as we kind of wrap up, talk a little bit about your books.
So I have 3 books. Basically, I wanted to create guides for like for the conditions. Basically, like
Hmm.
30 days of activities, kind of like you do a little bit of one activity a day to kind of help build you to understanding, to kind of help build you to more of a more balanced existence. So my first one is so you have autism, now what? This is a okay, you've been diagnosed with autism, but you have no idea what to do. And everyone's throwing buzzwords at you. Everyone's saying all these things, but what is autism? How does it relate to me? And what can I do? So I really want to, I go into what autism is, how it likely relates to the person reading it, and then what they can do for concrete steps. For example, how do I be more social? How do I deal with sensory issues? How do I deal with overstimulation? Kind of things like that. What are some very kind of basic beginning things? And it kind of builds like a program in a way. And a lot of these techniques I use with my clients in my practice. So they're more simplified versions because it's just somebody reading a book. But
Sure.
after 30 days, I have a pretty good idea of, okay, you know what? I have more of a direction now. I understand autism now a bit. I understand how it relates to me because everyone's autism is a little bit different. And then
Uh-huh.
what I can start doing with my life and my future because I still have a future and I need to attack it. The next one I have is basically and my internet addiction ones. I have internet addiction kicking the habit, which is okay. This is for someone that I have an electronic addiction. It could be gaming, social media, and I realize I have a problem. I don't know what to do, so I kind of break down. Okay, what are the needs the internet supplies you? Kind of what do you gain from it? Kind of what's holding you back? What fears do you have? Do you have other conditions that are also affecting you? Do you have thought processes that aren't good? In other words, I want you to start thinking differently about your life. I want you to start thinking about your purpose in your life. I want you to start thinking about what you are running from because you're online for a reason. You're gaining something from it and you need to figure that out. So it's another 30 days of activities, just like they're all 30 days of activities. And the last one, now this one's for parents. This is your child addicted to electronics?
Uh-huh.
Just like it says, is your child addicted? Which means, okay, you're a parent, you got kids that are addicted. What can you do as a parent? For one, what addictions are you kind of modeling for them? What kind of fears do you have? What thought processes do you need to change? And how do you address this problem with your child? How do you create real limits? How do you create balance? I have basically like social, like electronics contracts, to where how you monitor time, how you take control of your electronic devices in your home, kind of all these type of things. So whereas a parent, you gain control over 30 days of your home, of the situation, and you start to build progress. So every book is kind of like a guidepost of kind of what to do. And they're all
Nice.
on Amazon. They're either in paperback or they're on ebook.
Great, great. And again, we'll post every possible link we can under this video. So if you want to reach out to Nathan, we'll have those. Nathan, I feel like we could go on and on and on. So maybe down the road, if you want to come back, we can talk some more. But I really enjoyed
Well,
learning from you today.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I always have tons I can say. We just barely scratched the surface. I could go on for hours.
Yeah, no, me too. So we should probably do this again, maybe in
Hmm.
2026. But
Hmm.
check out Nathan's website, also his books. If you're in Texas, reach out to him. This is such an epidemic today that it's hard to even comprehend. I mean, so many people just, their kids are toddlers and they're giving them electronics to kind of shut them up or or to pacify them. Whereas I'm older, probably about 20 years older than you, but where, my parents didn't, they would say, sit still or you're gonna I'm gonna take you outside this restaurant and whack you or whatever, and some people are
Hmm.
going, well, that's a terrible thing to do, but I don't think it's a great thing to hand a toddler an electronic device.
No, we don't. The problem with electronic devices is they become babysitters.
Right. And it starts the neurocircuitry rewire at a pretty early age. So,
Yeah.
well, thanks again, Nathan. It's been great visiting with you, and let's do it again sometime. And have a great holiday.
Likewise, I appreciate it. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of Meet Your Mental Helper. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. If you'd like to learn more about our guest, you can find them on our guest directory at meetyourmentalhelper.com. You can find their social media links to follow them and also ways to directly contact them. If you would like to be on the podcast, join our Meet Your Mental Helper network. And we have several memberships that support the work we do that allow unknown experts to be seen. Look forward to hearing from you soon and see you at our next podcast.